Hello and welcome back to the Game Pit. Now this strange voice is Sean, and we are joined by Ronan as ever, because he's been holding the fort down, but there are ramblings and rustlings coming from elsewhere in the pit. I think we've got somebody else in here, Ronan.
Ramblings, that's brave. No, I'll let our guests cut in here at ramblings.
I think you'll find erudite conversational tidbits is what you're looking for.
From rambling to tidbits. I think I should be left by myself from now on.
Leave me alone. I've had 2 small children all day. I'm very tired and I'm very worn out mentally and physically.
I'm just thinking you shouldn't be making promises you're not going to be able to keep in an audio format, that's all.
Listen, beauty of editing, baby, beauty of editing.
Not edited, going to be in there. Anyway, welcome back, Sean, and welcome back, Natalie. I'm not sure which of you has been on fewer episodes this year.
I do feel like a guest on this show. It's lovely to come and join you in your show, Ronan.
Yes, I really has always been my show spiritually. It's just that I've managed to enable a takeover, and it's been quite enjoyable. And the standard has definitely plateaued.
Shall we crack on and tell people what we're actually recording today? Shall we? Maybe.
You don't need a yes to that, do you? God,
of course, I was hoping you would jump in seamlessly.
All right, seamlessly. We've recently been, as I said, we went to AireCon up in Harrogate just before COVID-19 really became the world's leading story. And we did get some gaming in. Now, Sean, I need to pull you up on something here. Are you ready?
Go on, then.
Well, every time we talk about AireCon in the build-up, you say that it's our main gaming con and we go there to play games all the time, but we don't really.
All right, we go to get drunk and then recover while playing games. Is that better?
And eat and see a bit of the town and chill out.
I think, okay, so our most relaxing con, shall we say that?
Okay, yeah, sure, let's say that. What do you go to AireCon for, Natalie?
I go to AireCon to watch you 2 stumble around with massive hangovers on the Saturday, because that's a good time.
We were quite well behaved on the Friday night, I thought.
Moderately so.
Did you see the state of Shawnee the next day?
Oh, well, that's none of my business.
Like...
I will say Harrogate has got an amazing Wetherspoons. Now, clearly the man who runs Wetherspoons has proven himself to be an imbecile in the last 3 weeks, but that is an amazing pub.
Oh, Harrogate's just lovely anyway.
It is a lovely place. And I do really enjoy AireCon for, the gaming space. There's a few traders there now, which is nice for a little walk around, but it really is all about getting them games played, which is nice. Concentrated gaming time.
It really do be gaming, though. Shall we... so what we're going to do is we're going to run through... I'm trying to count in 3s now while I'm talking. Run through about... more than 10 but less than 20 games that we played over that weekend.
Some games.
Yeah, just a light whisk across the top of them. Some of them expansions. Some of them, whatever. This is stuff we played while we were there, people. So we're just going to run you through them quick. And the first one is Watergate. It's the 2-player card game that I have already reviewed at some point by Matthias Kramer, in which one side's Nixon and the other side are the editors attempting to unveil Nixon's plot. And I got this played with Ellie when we first turned up, and people were turning up and people were here, there and everywhere. We just brushed out a couple of 2-player games, and this was one of them. And this time I played as the editor when I've always played as Nixon before, and I've been playing Rachel in all our games. For 2 things, I guess, that were interesting. One was that I have seen Rachel play against me. I've seen her make the mistake of not getting enough suspects in play early, because you've got to link suspects back to Nixon, and thinking, oh, that's really bad. You really handed me the game. Guess what I did?
Did you fail to get enough suspects in play?
Insight, a searing insight there.
Oh, I tell you, I'm on 4.
I failed to get enough. So I was like, I can't believe I've abused her so many times for doing that, and then I fell into exactly the same trap. And the second thing was, I said that I thought it felt really thematic as Nixon in what you're trying to do. On the other side, as the editor, it also feels really thematic, but it's frustratingly thematic, because you do feel like you are tantalisingly close to being able to put this web of evidence together, but Nixon has just got these big players that he plays again and again, these helpers, these backers, and they knock back your plan, and you feel like you're playing better and you're getting more evidence, but he's just able to pull out the cards and now and then just absolutely hammer blow you and go, nope, doing that, or take control of a whole round and go, right, this round's over. And you do feel like the underdog fighting against the power in the game, but you still have a chance to win. I do think maybe the editor's harder to win with, but I'll need to play as it more to unveil it. But playing as the other side only heightened my enjoyment of Watergate.
If you're not very familiar with the subject material, or maybe not that interested in it, does it stand up as just a game of to and fro without having the theme added into it?
I am neither familiar nor terribly interested in the Watergate scandal. I've got the barest fingertip grip on what actually happened there, and certainly not the ins and outs. I don't know who these people are, apart from the main players, and basically they're just names to me. So the theme is not what pulled me in here. It's not a theme specific to that actual scandal. Whether that is true or not, and whether the cards actually ring true to certain events, I don't know. I just know the feeling of each side is that you feel paranoid as Nixon and you feel oppressed as the editor. And, broad strokes, that's got to be what they were going for.
Natalie, have you got any interest in this game? Two-player game where you're taking on Nixon or you're being Nixon?
Not really. I'm sounding very, very unsure. But, the theme doesn't grab me. I think, I don't want to get into politics. I know a little bit about Watergate. Not particularly interested in playing a game around it. But, I'll never say never if you bring it home, which I'm sure you will if you have any interest, because I'm sure you haven't bought a game in the last 15 minutes.
You'd be surprised. Anyway,
No,
moving swiftly on to a game that I know, an expansion for a game that I know you are both very excited about.
Yes, It's Baron Park Bad News Bears by Phil Walker Harding and published by Lookout Games. So I had an opportunity on the Sunday to sit down and play a game with the Brothers Murph. They've won various podcasts around the gaming industry, and I'm sure people will be well aware of them. It was a lot of fun to play with them, and they bust out this expansion for us. I will be upfront and say that I love Baron Park anyway. And the Bad News Bear expansion just brings an extra tile. So instead of having the 4 tiles that you place your animal attractions on, you now have 5. And you also have these bigger sections. They take up a lot more real estate, and you get them by trading in other sections that you have collected through your tile gathering process. And we had a good laugh, didn't we? Apart from Nick injuring himself quite badly. So there's a little bit of blood. I was unsure what the expansion would bring, and in the end, having thought about it, I think it makes the game a little bit too long. The addition of that extra 5th game board to fill in its entirety to make way for those bigger pieces, those bigger animal attractions, pushes that game beyond a comfortable length for me. I'm not sure what you thought about it, Shawnee.
Yeah, I thought it was a little bit longer than I wanted it to be. Maybe that's because we're also playing a 4-player game. We also had to wait for Nick or Mike, I can never remember which is which,
Nick,
to go and stem the blood after he'd slashed himself open. Nick or Mike? Nike. Anyway, there was also another expansion in the box, wasn't there? They briefly ran through it, but we only played with the one.
Yeah.
I think if you added both of them in, I think it definitely would be too long.
I think y'all played with the wrong half of that expansion.
You reckon the other one's better?
I think the other one is... See, it does add length, but it adds real thinkiness to it. It adds the monorail, right, where you have to go at right angles from green space to green space. But those monorail cards are worth a lot of points. You look at it and go, oh, that's too much fuss. I can't really be bothered with it. And then someone starts doing it and you're like, no, I need their points. You start trying to... And you're really... you kind of have to plan ahead a bit in Baron Park anyway in order to collect the right ones to make sure you've always got something to do. That makes it so much more that you're having to plan ahead and leave a space for a green thing in the right place. And yeah, but it depends what you want from Baron Park, right? And I think it's true with the half you played as well, because it does make it longer. Just with the bigger tiles, it's a different type of bear, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a lot more real estate to be placed in, and there are a lot more awkward shapes. So you do have to do quite a bit of forward planning, and actually the points that they're worth could be negated by the fact that you then have to use a few more green tiles, which obviously aren't worth any points. So it's about what you can realistically play without having one of these big real estates and then just filling it all, the rest of it, with green, which is not going to score you anything.
Yes, well, I think they work best in duality in that, because you've got to use more greens, then the green becomes more useful in the monorail. But if you want from Baron Park a 35-minute quick game that's fun and it's a tile layer, this turns it into an hour-long game that's got a lot on it and a lot thinkier, and you can get stymied in your plans ahead. So it just completely changes the nature of Baron Park. So it's kind of a good expansion because it adds a lot. It takes it out of where it's been successful.
Which is not to say we didn't have a good game. I came second, yay. But again, I just thought a little bit too long. We've got the expansion. I don't know that I'd break out the Bad Bear expansion when we're playing. Just
I want to play with the monorail. They look cool. The monorails. Just on the board, a little raisy.
Yeah, I'd like to give the monorails a go.
Cool. Let us move on to a very deep game. It's Llama, designed. I actually didn't know this was designed by Rainer Knizia. When I was doing my research for this, I was like,
it was up for Spiel, wasn't it? It was a big thing.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, I didn't realise. It shows you what I know. And it's coming from Amigo Games. Very simple card game where you're laying down and everyone has to play subsequent cards on their turn. You're trying to get rid of your cards as quickly as you can. A little bit more to it than that, Ronan, but just a real fun party game, essentially.
Is there more to it than that? Is there?
Probably not, no.
It just cycles from 1 to 6 to llamas and back round to 1 again, and you've got to be able to play the number that's out or the next number up from your hand. And if you can, you do, and if you can't, you either quit and take that number of negative points, or you draw another card.
Yeah,
that's it.
Yeah. I suppose the only other choice is when do you quit? Do you quit and take what you've got? Because multiple cards just count as the one thing. So if I've got 5 4s in my hand, I only take 4 at the end of the game, and it's whoever's got the least points that wins it. But I just think it's a funny, silly take that game. I've never had a game where people were just sitting around the table laughing. So I think for that alone, it's worth it.
When you explained it, I was like, And now thinking back on it, I'm like, But then why during it was I wetting myself the whole time?
How many llamas did you have there then, Rowley, in that one round we played?
I presume that the South American continent was bereft of camel relatives. I don't know. How would you classify llamas? Anyway, I'm trying to make a point. I had a lot of llamas.
There was a lot of llamas. And could we buy a 3? No, we could not. It was just me and you sat there just waiting for a 3.
It's who's going to quit first on just drawing and getting 48 cards in your hand. Like, no 3s. No. I've got all 4s, 5s, 6s and llamas. I just need 1 3 and I'm ready to kill you. No, still not a 3. No, still not a 3. Sean having a cardiac.
That's because he hidden all the 3s, I bet.
I have no idea where that came from. I was keeping more than just the 3s. I was keeping the 1s, the 2s, the 3s, the 4s, the 5s, the 6s, and the llamas, I think you'll find.
Listen, you weren't keeping the llamas. Rowley was keeping the llamas, and I had the 6s.
There's a prize for having most llamas in your hand, right?
Is that prize losing?
Oh.
You knew it was either really bad or really good when Ronan just sat there laughing at his hand.
But the game's nothing. So why was I laughing so much? Because the game's just like,
It's Knizia, man. He's a genius. He's just turning the most simple rule set into a funny game. I don't know how he does it.
I'm willing to accept that as one of 2 possibilities. Either he's a genius or I'm a complete idiot. It's one of those 2 things.
A little bit of column A. A little bit of column B.
It's nice when your family's got your back. That's what I'm here for. Okay.
Right.
I'm going to move on from this llama-based abuse. It's not the first time Sean's been up in public for that. Bunny Kingdom.
It was an alpaca.
That's not what he's
And that's why we moved to Dudley, because you don't get done for that up here.
Oh my God.
Moving on very quickly to, unfortunately, Bunny Kingdom. I'm sure Sean's done a few things with rabbits. Anyway, you had rabbits, didn't you, when you were a kid?
One rabbit called Fluffy.
Yeah.
Your dad built me the hutch.
Yeah, so that's all true. Anyway, fascinating. Bunny Kingdom in the Sky is the expansion to Bunny Kingdom. Quick roll call. Who here loves Bunny Kingdom?
Yay!
It is
that was an easy crowd.
Family favourite.
It certainly is. And it's one of Rachel's absolute favourites. and she was very excited to get the expansion out because we'd all played it before, and it adds a 5th player, and we played 5 player, and In the Sky adds a supplementary board, and everyone gets more bunnies, and it adds a whole load of new cards, which are both linked to the board and do other things on the main board, and you draft more cards in this game with In the Sky expansion. It adds a load of unique resources, so if you know the game, you'll know that you're trying to build up fiefs, I never know, foof, something, with loads of castle towers in and loads of resources in, but there's 3 basic resources and only 7 luxury resources in the base game, so they are at a premium. This adds a plethora of wondrous and luxury resources. Yeah, you like that? Completely changing the whole scoring system within the game, and also a whole bunch of parchments and powering up certain parchments already in the game. And the whole scoring system is the same, but completely revamped and super powered, and you have more cards, and it is Bunny Kingdom on steroids. Now, Sean, I have often referred to you as a bunny on steroids. Natalie chose to marry you, so surely she must have enjoyed this experience.
So, I love Bunny Kingdom. I'm very bad at Bunny Kingdom.
This sounds like your defence is getting in first. Go on.
Yeah. No, seriously, I'm awful at Bunny Kingdom. And so, as my main tactic, what I chose to do was ignore the expansion. I didn't get it. And I'm very sorry. Because I feel like Rachel would be scowling at me and I'll be up for some abuse on WhatsApp later. In theory, I think it sounds great, but I really did just kind of ignore it. I tried to get up there a little bit too late. By that point, you, Ronan, and Sean had already been up there. Rachel, who is some sort of savant at it, who just gets Bunny Kingdom and absolutely wallops us every single time. Then I came to it a bit late, by which point, obviously, with the drafting of the cards, people had already set up, and I should have just done what Ellie did and stay far away from it. I think I will like it if I get to play with it properly, but I didn't this time.
I really enjoyed. Were they the Carotiers or something? The little
Carotidels.
Carotidels. That's the thing. They were cool.
It's like a citadel, but it's made of carrots. See?
Oh, they were awesome.
I didn't think I'd break that down for you. I thought it was all there in the word. But apparently,
other than that, I just felt that it added noise that Bunny Kingdom just didn't really need. If you got the cards that they came up, you might want to go and try it just for something different, just to collect something different. But I just don't see how Bunny Kingdom needs it. Bunny Kingdom's such a random game that gives you different experience. Not different experience, but it gives you just sort of different layouts every time. By its nature, it's going to be, every game is going to be slightly different, and you're going to be placing in different areas. You're going to be collecting different things. And I just didn't see the point of the expansion, to be honest.
In fairness now, I think I would play with the Carotidels, and there's one other card in that whole expansion that I'd play with again. So we played it again when we came back with 3 players, because we thought, for starters, the whole 5-player thing didn't work.
No, not at all.
No, not at all.
It was too much going on, too many people on the board. Even with the supplementary board, the whole thing was getting filled up so much. So we thought we'd try it with 3 players, see if just the fact that there was 2 extra players. Now, not necessarily you two, but you can take it a little bit personally, but not fully personally. But just when the 2 other players were the problem. So we played it 3-player, and same issue, that it's just, like what you said, Sean, it's just noise, and it's not fun. And there's all these areas up there with these wondrous goods, but there's no space to build anything. So then you have to link them down to the main board, and there's only 2 ways of doing that, and it's spatial as well. So you have to get onto the 2 starts of rainbows, which are down the bottom of the new board, and build out from there. So a lot of the time when you're grabbing stuff from up top, there's not a lot you can do with them, and they end up being their own weird little fiefs up there, doing like their own weird little thing. Really, the only issue that I have now, having played the base game a lot, is that there's not many luxury goods, and it brings in 1 extra luxury good just for the main board, that chicken thing. I'd always play with that because it removes some of the luck of being able to draw luxury goods in your hand. And the other strange thing as well is that because there's so many in play and you're getting so many more cards, some of those parchments just got super powered and became either much easier to do or much easier to score points from. And it felt like parchments got overpowered in both games.
Yeah, I agree. I was a little bit disappointed, really. I do love a bit of Bunny Kingdom. I was hoping that the expansion...
more than a bit disappointed.
Yeah, I was hoping that the expansion would really add something to it. I love the game. I know it's completely random. I am very bad at it, but I love it so much. And I was just hoping for that, you know, when a good expansion comes to a game and just elevates it. And I really just felt that this detracted from it, which is why I didn't bother going up there. It was like, well, I couldn't see a way that, you know, you build your fiefs up there and you can't link them down, which, as you say, you've really only got two options. Then what's the point?
Yeah, I'm with you. Okay, Natalie, you're going on to a holy cow, which I have previously slain.
Yes, I know I haven't got to review this one too much, I know. So this is Paladins of the West Kingdom by Shem Phillips and S.J. McDonald, and it's been published by Garfield Games and Renegade Games. So this has been covered on the show before, I believe. It is a worker placement. Again, I think trying to do something a little bit different. You're playing workers down to go up various scoring tracks to get your points. You're doing this through a theme of praying, absolving, converting, fortifying, building houses, and it's all very mixed in there. So I've played this a couple of times now, and the first time I played it with Rachel and Ellie, and I know it's a favourite of Rachel, and Rachel just absolutely decimated me. It was quite, for me, I think, a difficult game to get my head round. Absolutely, like, she scored twice my points quite easily at a canter. It was a procession. And so I came home and thought, well, I'd really like to play it again to see if where I went wrong and whether I can improve on that score, and to see if there is a way that I can do something different. So I came home and I played it with Shawnee. And I actually then tried to follow the path that Rachel had taken with getting the feeding off the converting and absolving actions. And we got to the end and I felt a bit deflated because I thought that it was just a little bit too much faffing for the amount of points that I ended up getting. You are very dependent on the luck of the cards that come out, whether they're the townspeople or the people that you go and attack or convert. Very dependent on those. If you're not getting those cards that can link together nicely for end of game scoring or in-game chaining together to make big rounds, then really you're just stuck doing kind of little fiddly things and maybe 3 or 4 turns around if you can't get something to chain together. And I was a little bit disappointed at the end of it, because in the first game, I rated it quite highly.
What's happened here?
I've been thinking.
In my head, you were going to come in and say, it's a wonderful game. I don't know what you're talking about, Ronan. You're talking nonsense. It's just a brilliant experience. And I was then going to come in and go, well, I wanted to agree with you as well, Natalie. And it turns out I do agree with you, Natalie. Where did that come from?
I've been thinking about it, and I was just... In the other games from these designers, you're not so beholden to luck when you're trying to score your points. And so in this, where you can't really do anything to change the cards, you can't kind of pick up your own end of game scoring, I just found that was very dependent. Now, Rachel played the game incredibly well, and I'm not taking anything away from her. She saw the chains of cards that she could pull together. And maybe I just don't see that when I'm playing. Maybe I just don't understand the game fully enough. But for me, you are dependent on those cards coming out and whether you can attain those cards. So you have to pay for those cards by having enough kind of flags in the right colour, as it were, so that you can do your attack action or your convert action or whatever it may be. So even if I could see cards that were going to chain together, there was no way of me quickly getting flags to get at those cards. There's just something missing for me.
Okay, so for me, I really, for 3/4 of the game, I was really enjoying the experience. I was thinking, no, Ronan's totally wrong. Natalie, you're right. This is a really great game. I was chaining things together. I was doing a little bit of this and a little bit of that. And I felt like everything was coming together. And I felt I was being really clever in my play. I was really sort of moving along all the different tracks on the board. And then when the scoring came around, again, that word's going to come out, deflated. I just felt like, because that card turned round and benefited you, Natalie, and didn't benefit me, I'm talking about the main scoring cards as they flip around each round, I just got completely stitched, and I didn't realise how much points weren't in the game. So they were massive, and they were absolutely fundamental to winning the game. And also the 3 tracks where you're building up your blue, your black, and your red tracks on the side, absolutely fundamental. You take those away, and everything else is almost like a tiebreaker. So all the stuff you're doing on the board, unless you're gearing towards those 2 things, and unless you get a little bit lucky with the card turn, I just felt it didn't matter. So I felt I put all that effort in, and it didn't matter. Now, I'd still like to give the game a go, because I was enjoying it, with the knowledge of how the score, what the scoring is likely to be around, and where I should be focusing my efforts, but still so disappointed. I'd heard so many good things about this one, and Ronan, you were right.
Wow, mate. You know, the quicker you get on board that train, the easier your life is going to run. That's all I'm saying. I can only point you in the right direction, my friend. I can draw the map. I can't make you walk the route.
I've got a question, Shawnee.
Yo.
You weren't a massive fan of this game. Is it that you want to play this game again because I'm the person that will be playing it with you and you just want to beat me again?
You beat me, I think you'll find.
I don't think I did.
Well, he was beaking that you beat him.
Really?
He was moaning about it about 3
done.
seconds later, so I think you probably did. While she checks her app.
It wasn't
Okay.
by much.
So, Natalie, firstly, don't ever feel bad about losing at this game to Rachel, because you're playing what we call a human level. And whatever realm she is in, playing Paladins, every time I've seen her play it, she's just incredible at it. I mean, ridiculously good. And she can choose different paths to go down and still be amazing at it. I don't know. She clicks with this game. Her and Shem Phillips should become drinking buddies or something. Because there's nothing going on there where them two are just like, yep, got it right. Yeah, cool. My brain works the same way your brain does. Secondly, I am going to use some confirmation bias here and stick with it that games often are rated according to the first experience with them. And you have a bad first experience, that game is going to be underrated by you until you get far down the road. And if you have a good first experience, it will be overrated by you until you get further down the road. And the good puzzle bit, Sean, that you said you enjoyed until you got to scoring, and that Natalie, you said in the first game, I think I'm just getting more and more convinced, the more people I talk to, this game is riding on the coattails of a good first 1 or 2 games or 3 until you start clicking over and realising I'm doing a lot of work for nothing here, and I'm doing the same puzzle game after game and it doesn't change enough, and the things that do change I have no control over. I am absolutely certain this is Emperor's New Clothes, and this will end up being a game that plummets down the rankings because it doesn't hold up. I stick by that.
Strong words.
I'm telling you, man, every time I play it, I have less fun.
So the next game we're going to bring to you is the hotness of the moment. It's the one on everyone's lips. It's The Crew, The Quest for Planet 9, designed by Thomas Singh, coming from Cosmos Games. It is very much a trick-taking game. It's a trick-taking game in which you cannot communicate to each other as to what you are doing. You are trying to fulfill various tasks, whether it's to have the number 4, the blue 4 as the last card in the deck, and the only way you can communicate to each other is by indicating when you play a particular card, whether that might be the highest card of that colour in your hand, the lowest card of that colour in your hand, or somewhere in the middle. That means that it's obviously in the middle, and it's cards you've got of that ilk are higher and lower. And it's a cooperative game, so that's why you're trying to get this information to everybody else around the table, but without speaking. It completely baffled me. I am not a trick-taking gamer. I don't really understand trick-taking very well. So, although I found the game really interesting, and I've heard enough from people that I trust their opinions to believe that this is a really good game, it was beyond my grasp. I just didn't get it. I was still being taught the basics of trick-taking, whereas Natalie and Matthew, who we played with, were kind of at that next stage. They were thinking about, right, if I'm going to do this on the next turn, I'm going to try and get Natalie to do this, and if you follow, what? So I'm not ready for The Crew, is what I'm saying. I think I need to play a few more trick-taking games before I could play this game. And I think that may be its problem in the wider audience. I don't know how many people will be ready for it. That's my opinion.
Probably quite a few people, mate. Trick-taking games are quite...
I know they're very popular, but not everybody gets them. Not everyone understands them. Me, certainly.
I know. So, before you go to a proper review of this game from Natalie, who actually is very good at trick takers, and you don't need my uninformed opinion. We plan to have this in our next small box pit fight, Eleanor and I. However, the plan is, because I don't think the girls are very familiar with trick taking, is to play with the deck just like a simple trick taker a few times.
Yeah.
So they get their head around that and then start going into the missions and slowly going through them and not leap into mission 17 first of all, or whatever it might be. So, Sean, that sounds like an opportunity for you to join in with us so that we can all learn trick taking together and take it as a journey.
Jolly good show. Natalie, how did you find this one?
Okay. I have a disclaimer to make. And the disclaimer is this. I love trick-taking games with a deck of cards. I grew up on them. It's why I'm good at them. I played every Friday night at my nan and granddad's for money. I love a trick-taking game. I do not particularly enjoy trick-taking games that the board game industry comes out with. I think nearly all of them could just as well be played with a deck of cards. Having said that, I think the added interest of these missions give it an extra something. Again, I don't know that there's anything different. You probably could still play it with a regular deck of cards and still have missions with it. That's something that's a little bit different. I would like to go further with those missions. As Shawnee said, we didn't get particularly far. Maybe I should just get a regular card night with you, Shawnee, every Friday to teach you some trick-taking games so that you can dive straight in.
Yeah, well, I'd certainly would be able to make a decision on whether I like trick-taking games, because at the moment I just don't get them. I just don't understand them, and I suppose once I go down that path I'll understand if I'm going to like this game or not.
Nat, did you get a feeling whether you thought you were having fun with it already in the early missions, and whether it's something you did want to explore more? Were you frustrated you weren't playing it with better trick-taking players? That's all this question.
I genuinely do think that something that requires that kind of cooperation, whereby you can't actually talk about what's in your hand and what you're doing, needs to have players that are familiar with those kind of games. So if you have played Hearts or Bridge, then you are going to be good at this game, because it's that same kind of partnering and same kind of understanding what someone else might have in their hand from what they've played before and how they've positioned themselves in the table. This game, I think, is absolutely well suited to people who have played trick-taking games before and understand the strategies that come when you're trying to partner with somebody. And it would be a better game in that. If you have got 3 or 4 novices playing this game, it's just going to be a mess.
I really look forward to reviewing it in our pit fight. It's going to go really well.
That's just, that is just my opinion. And as I said up front, I'm a bit of a snub about these things because I grew up on trick-taking games. There's not a trick-taking game with a deck of cards that I haven't played.
We had 5 in my family, so we used to play a lot, trick-taking games. We play Hearts a lot and all that.
Yeah.
So I have a background in it, but I am terrible at them. But I have a background so I can play them. But that whole thing of, I played this 8, so you must know that I'm holding the 11. I'm like, well, there is no 11. All right, Ronan. That'll be a problem. I played the 8, so you must know I've got the Jack.
Yeah.
I see where the problem lies.
Yeah, I know. I told you I was no good at them. Yes. I'm going to move away from trick-taking games and stop making another arse of myself. Fistful of Meeples, everyone. From Johnny Pack Cantin and Final Frontier Games is a Western-themed Mancala-ish game. In which there is in which there's a town which has got various building plots along it, and a bunch of meeples of different colours get laid out. And on a player's turn, they pick up those meeples and they go clockwise or anti-clockwise in a Mancala fashion, dropping one off as you go. And when you drop certain colours into certain areas, it allows you to either collect things. If you drop a robber in with a load of miners, he'll nick gold. If you drop miners in with whatever, you collect gold again. If the sheriff can get a load of robbers and put them in jail, then again, you'll get gold for doing that. You can get stone from doing various things. And then there's also, you can drop builders into free areas and you can build your own buildings there, and when everyone stops at your building with a thing and they activate it, you get something good for it, but they get something good for it. So you're taking up the plots of land in the town, and you're moving them around, and you're trying to collect gold, and when you get a load of gold at once, you can buy a special bonus tile, and when all the bonus tiles are gone, or a couple of other things, like a madam comes around and can round up miners and put them back to the saloon and stuff, or there can be jailbreaks where dynamite goes off. That happens a certain number of times. The game will finish, and you're going to score points for the gold you've got, the bonus tiles you've collected, the buildings you've built and upgraded, and generally how well you've played over about only 30 minutes in this clever little game. Now, these two guys didn't play it with me, and I will say that I used the word clever, and that is my main review of it, because what he's done in a small box with a limited mechanism is clever. And it's fun. It wasn't overly engaging. As with all Mancala games, it changes a lot on everyone else's turn. So the planning ahead you can do is limited, but each of the decisions is relatively small. You can certainly play well and win, as displayed by the other two players. And you can play poorly and understand you could have done better, as displayed by me. And it is a competent, clever game, which I enjoyed when I played, which if it's firing off for you, I'd say go and give it a go. But not one I tell you to rush out and buy. I was engaged plenty. I'd happily play it again, but I didn't fall in love with A Fistful of Meeples, but I admire the design.
I was watching you play this one, Ronan, with Chris and Ellie, and this is completely just someone watching the game, not playing it. It just looked forgettable. You guys weren't massively invested. You were kind of looking around when it wasn't your turn. You were chatting away with each other. Nobody was really focusing on the game that much.
Well, Ellie was, because she absolutely trounced us. Yeah, but it's one of those games that it was light, but I wasn't not engaged in the game. I just couldn't make decisions until the other Mancalas had been done, and I saw what they chose to do, and then I could look at the board and you have an idea where meeples are building up in certain areas and what moves may be available, but until the dust has settled, you can't choose what your turns are going to be. So
yeah.
Just building off that, Ronan, do you think, therefore, that there maybe is a little bit too much reliance for your turn on someone else's turn? Like, if you can't plan a strategy because you've got to wait for someone to either set you up or finish moving their bits and bobs around the board, do you think that that's too much?
That's the issue I have with Five Tribes, which I think is the game of this ilk that kind of is going to be referred back to as Touchstone because it's such a massive game. That there was too much reliance on other players and it was too long a game and I was waiting too long in between turns to not be able to know what to do, and other players could set other players up and people could win by other players' poor play. In the Fistful of Meeples, it's so quick. Even the player's turn is like boom, 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 and every single action, there's nothing fiddly, there's nothing obscured. When they're doing something, it's very clear. I do this, that gets me 2 of those and 1 of those. I do go in this building, that gets me 2 stone and 1 gold. I go here, this robber nicks from these miners, yeah? It's all so clear what they do that it's actually very quick. So although we might have been looking up and looking around and talking, when we look back to the board, we didn't have the problem of sitting there going, right, now I have to sit here for 5 minutes and work out what my options are. That's part of the cleverness design. It's all very, very clear, and you just go, right, yeah, cool, there's my move, and I'm going to do that. So that's where it worked, and the downtime and thinking time was very limited.
Cool. Right, that was Fistful of Meeples. Now, Ronan and Ellie actually reviewed this game in our very last episode, but Natalie, me and you are just going to run our mouths, something. We'll run something over it. Our minds, no, maybe not.
Run each other through in another domestic incident.
Hey! Shh.
Listen, this lockdown has got everybody on edge.
What's the game, Nat?
Oriflamme, and it's designed by Adrian Hesling and Axel Hesling, and it's published by Studio H. So it has been reviewed already. Very quickly, you all have a deck of cards. They represent a family or a lord and ladies in his court, and all of the people within his court do different things, much like Love Letter. And what you're going to do is every turn you're going to lay a card down. You're going to lay either at the end of the row, either end of the row, and then it's going to have an effect. You're going to lay it face down, and after all the cards have been laid, you're going to choose whether to flip your card face up or not, as to whether it then will have a reaction on the rest of the row. And so you do that and you play 7 cards, and then the person with the most money at the end is the winner. Right. I am going to say, because I name-checked Love Letter at the beginning, I'm not a huge fan of this game. I hate the deduction element within card games. It never gels with me. I don't particularly have fun doing it. And by the time it has gelled with me, the game is over and I've got like 2.5 points. Therefore, I don't necessarily think that I will play this again. Shawnee?
I really liked it. I really liked it. I loved the spatial element to it and kind of the ability to move other people's cards around and to take them out of the game. Obviously, the first round, it was just complete shots in the dark. We didn't really know what we were doing. But by the end of the game, I knew how I could have played that better and how I could have set traps and how I could have bluffed the other players. And I think in subsequent games, I think Ronan and Ellie sort of have certainly played it subsequently. And they were talking about how it grew for them and their control over things grew. I'd like to investigate that a little bit. And yeah, I thoroughly enjoyed it. And it was French Game of the Year.
Unreliable source. I know you said you didn't want to play it again. If you were to be forced to due to unforeseen circumstances, do you feel that it may grow on you in that you get to know what the cards were in the game? Or is it just something that I just don't like that style whatsoever?
I don't like that style. I very much see it as a love letter-esque game, and I, to my bones, hate love letter. I don't really think it's necessarily going to grow on me. It sounds like I'll be playing it though, because there's no one else that's going to play with Shawnee at the moment. Yeah, I mean, it's not my thing at all.
Well, your saving grace is it doesn't play 2-player. So
that's all right then. That's all right then.
So, okay, Sean loved it. Natalie, not so much. Ellie and I both really liked it. So there you go. Different views on Oriflamme. Sean, you're taking us in the Wayback Machine to 2 Essens ago?
2 Essens ago, but a slightly different version. 4-player version of Tokyo Highway. And designed by Naotaka Shimamoto and Yoshiaki Tomioka. And coming from Itten Games. So, Tokyo Highway, very much a balancing game to start with. You're trying to balance roads and cross each other's roads to try and score. A little bit of take that, a little bit of planning ahead, because every time you use your road to cross under or over somebody else's road, you get to lay one of your cars on your roads, and the roads are going to go up and down in size depending on how many of the pillar you lay them on, and the first person to get rid of all their cars is going to win the game. Really delicate balancing going on. I bought the game for James thinking that there'll be a good fun family game, because we did like Junk Art, we really liked Meeple Circus, and he really enjoyed that type of game. But with Tokyo Highway, I think it was a little bit too gamey for him. He didn't really understand like the gamey part of it and planning ahead a little bit. I think probably a little bit old for him. And if I'm honest, I didn't particularly enjoy it myself. I found it really fiddly. I found it quite frustrating, and I just didn't get on with it at all, to be honest.
Yeah, at the end of the day, it's putting cars on pieces of wood with tweezers.
Yeah.
The whole fiddliness leading to the building near to yourself to doing the sort of undercutting, overcutting, and the meanness is the whole point of the game. So it's a very strange game in that it's fiddly with meanness in which you're trying to lay traps for the other players. So it's, definitely not a family game. And yet, who wants to play a fiddly mean dexterity game that's like that, that's really actually thinky as well? It's a very unusual mix. I can see why it hits home for some people. It wasn't entirely my cup of tea.
Agreed. I mean, I'm not a massive dexterity fan, but there are ones that I've played that I've enjoyed, as Shawnee said, Junk Art and Meeple Circus. And you know, the primary thing about those is that they are fun and it's a bit of a giggle and it doesn't really matter. And we do it to see the smile on James's face when he's played something particularly fiddly. And Tokyo Highway is a little bit more thinky, a lot more fiddly. And let me tell you, these hands cannot do that level of dexterity. Like, just not happening.
I don't think you get to say that on this podcast. I don't think you get to claim worse hands.
I'm not claiming worse hands. I'm telling you these hands. People can then extrapolate about you guys.
I think we learned one thing about our son. He is never going to be a brain surgeon. Those hands were not made for delicate.
It's his father's son.
Yep, sure is.
Whoever he is. Okay.
Hey.
My next game is, now if you listen, you'll know I'm not a big fan of roll and writes, but I'm going to pick one out of the air for you. This one is called Dizzle. It's from Schmidt-Spieler and it's been picked up by Stronghold Games, designed by Ralph Zulinder. Dizzle is pretty much themeless. For some reason in my head, it has a computer game theme on it, but it doesn't really. But what you've got is a grid, which is a kind of funky shape. It's not a regular shape, in which there's 3 start spots in the middle, and a bunch of normal dice get rolled, and then the first player drafts one of the dice and has to fill in with a cross an area, a square of that number. And the next player drafts a dice, and the next player drafts a dice. And when it comes back to you, well, you've started off with a cross, you have to go adjacent to it in your next one. So you're looking at the pool of dice, making sure that you've got opportunities to continue going. Because if it comes round to you and you haven't got a valid space you can play in whatever's left in this pool of dice, then you've got 2 options. You can either stop, so therefore you're going to do fewer crosses, giving you fewer chances to score points, or you can pick up the whole lot and re-roll. But when you re-roll, if you still can't make a cross anywhere, you have to take a dice off your board and put it back into the middle again. Meaning, again, you're even worse off than if you just stop. So you're taking a bit of risk and a bit of push of luck. And you're looking to create chances so that you have lots of different options, obviously, which is easier at the beginning of a level than it is towards the end. Once everyone's finished drafting around, you then take all your dice off and put crosses in, and we move on from there. The way you score points is, again, it's irregular shaped, but by completing certain columns and certain rows, they'll score you lots of points at the end of the game. There's also sort of connected areas. So if you go on both orange puzzle pieces, they'll be at different ends of your board, then that'll score you points, or both blue ones, or different areas, or there's just different, filling in different things. Now, the base game comes with 4 levels. So it starts off like that. When you go to the second level, there are areas that are harder to get to unless you land on a key, which will then allow you to unlock a door, meaning you won't have to go all the way around with dice. You can get into point scoring areas. You go on from there, there's like a multi-island area. So you start in one area, but when you cross off a shuttle, you can shoot across and then start filling in another area. So they've got different ideas of what you do, but the main mechanism and the main interest to me really was that shared pool for drafting, in that you're looking to see, because it's very easy to see what other players want, and you lot are after this, desperately need this 1/6 that's left of you. I'm definitely going to take that 6 and wind you up. And then, of course, I've got the perfect set of dice coming towards me. I've got my next 2 moves planned, and then someone just goes, I'm just going to roll them and see what happens. And you start cursing their name, their family, their mother, and everything else about them. It's not going to change the world, but it's one of the most enjoyable roll and writes that I've played, because of that interaction, because of that shared resource, because you're all filling in the same board and certain numbers are more valuable at certain times. You can get them or risk it and push your luck. And it all added to quite a fun, very quick experience. And I can see why Stronghold picked it up. That's Dizzle.
Any downsides at all for your Ronan, or was it just uniformly fantastic across the board?
Most downside is the fact that you have to roll dice and then you have to write on a piece of paper.
So this one's it sounds quite similar in terms of the way you mess with each other from the shared pool of dice, as you do in Cat Cafe, Natalie, as we know. As it was one of our favourite bits of Cat Cafe. It was like you had those dice and then you could see exactly what everyone's going for, whether Nat's collecting cushions or I'm going for the food bowl or what have you. You could sort of stop people doing what they want to do just as much as you can help yourself. So definitely, I warm to that. But one question I will ask is, do you think the bubble's gonna burst for these roll and writes? I hadn't even heard of Dizzle until you mentioned it, Ronan. So is it starting to wane?
I think there's certainly a collection of people who will get most roll and writes that come out, and they're roll and write fans. But that's the same with any new mechanism. Remember, there were people that bought every single deck builder that came out, and I think it's gone to the point now where most people have got roll and writes that they enjoy, if they enjoy them at all, and it's going to be very hard to break through for another breakout hit. So I think they'll sell a certain amount. Again, I can only refer back to last time I saw a mechanism breakout. This was deck building. Every deck builder for a certain amount of years sold a certain amount of copies, but we've got no more massive hits. I think that's what's going to happen with roll and write. They're all going to sell a certain number of copies, and it's going to be incredibly hard to be a huge hit coming out of this. if this had come out right near the beginning, I think it could have got a wider audience. The fact that it's themeless, the fact that the name Dizzle doesn't mean anything, I can see it going under the radar, but it's definitely worth a few quid for a bit of a laugh. And I don't like them, so I don't own many roll and writes. So I'm definitely not played out on them because I've tried a few and not enjoyed them. So it was probably more refreshing to me than it would be to people who have been trying every single one or have been forced to play a lot of them by people who really enjoy them.
Cool. So next one is one that I'm on record of saying I really, really enjoy. And Natalie, you had another game of it.
Nat, can I double check?
Mm.
Are you going to be talking about the gameplay experience or the pre-gameplay experience for Yukon Airways?
I might just fold it all in. Let's go on a bit of a roller coaster.
You roll, because I think it was like longer to get going than it was to play.
Yeah, it was. Shut up.
Go on, tell the story.
I'm telling the story and I'm remembering this conversation, Rowley. Never you mind about that. My memory is long and I can hold a grudge.
Good.
Right.
See you in 9 months. Carry on.
Don't worry, I can hold a grudge longer than 10 people I know. So the game we're talking about is Yukon Airways, designed by Al Leduc and published by Ludonova. So we all know it's basically your standard pick up and deliver. You are piloting a little plane. In my case, I always pilot the Turbo Beaver, and you're picking up passengers and you are dropping them off at some really exotic locations like Taco Bar and Skegway and Old Yukon. I mean, you're going all over the Yukon area. You're doing that by kind of picking up your cards and laying them down to play tickets and making sure you've got enough fuel, and you're ramping up your bonuses, and you're going to get money for taking passengers and for fulfilling certain tickets and for going to as many different places as you possibly can by the end of the game. And the money is the points. Now, before we go any further, I played this at AireCon and I was roped into teaching it because I was the only one amongst some of our friends that had played it before, and I was happy to teach it. I've played it a couple of times. So I went and picked it up from the library, and then I got it back upstairs to the main gaming hall to play the game, and I opened this box and it was brand new, unpunched. Fellas, my heart dropped because you know what I'm talking about. Them player boards that have got 6 dials with fiddly little arms on them. You know the pain. You're talking about 48 pieces of plastic to punch in, and they're tiny little ones, and sometimes they don't go right and sometimes they fling off, and then you're wrecking the cardboard and then they don't go properly, and honestly, boys, it was very traumatic.
Right, we give her a hug, for the love of God, man. Get in there.
No, I'm going nowhere near her when she's in this mood. She could lash out at any time.
But having said that, I adore Yukon Airways. It was lovely to teach. I played with a great group of guys. I played with Dan Hughes, and they seemed to enjoy it. As a pick up and deliver, I think it's one of the best out there. I love the theming. I love the fact that, the fuel is quite difficult to manage. You top out at a certain level of fuel at 7, and you've really got to be planning if you're trying to fly further afield. There's nothing I don't love about this game. And I won it at AireCon. Yay, go me.
You bully. Yukon Airways, I've said it in the show that we reviewed it. It's one of the best games of 2019 that I've played thus far. I really enjoy it. Still a slight caveat in that I don't know if you could play it regularly. I don't know if it's a different enough experience to play regularly, but when I do play it, I thoroughly enjoy it. It's a proper brain workout and a great game. Yeah.
It's a good game. I don't know that. I think I'd have opened that box, seen it, and gone, lads, we're playing something else. So maybe from that you can gauge how much I like the game.
Oh, man, honestly, I could have cried.
I'm surprised you didn't, because Mike came up to us, like, we didn't know, and we were like, all right, have you started yet? He's like, no, and he told us the story, and we've had a few laughs that weekend. That might have been the biggest laugh that we had.
I can feel the sympathy, Ronan. Honestly, I'm touched.
Oh, mate. There was tears. We were like, what?
I tell you something, matey. There will be tears. Never you mind about that, my love.
It'll be worth it for the crack we had at your expense for that 30 seconds. And he was just like, I know. We were like, what? Anyway, well, fair play to you. You're a trooper.
I am. Thank you.
So, okay, moving onwards. This is Kitty Cataclysm, designed by Bez and coming from Stuff by Bez. So we had a quick game of this at AireCon with Bez herself, and we took home a copy and we played it 2-player here at home, and it's a very, very simple but funny and quite endearing card game where you are just trying to get rid of all your cards into your kitty, and you score points by doing this. But there's lots of take that and lots of like, okay, I'm going to take 2 of your cards, and then I'm going to make you pick up 7 cards, and I'm going to give you this, and all the cards do something, and a very, very simple set. But the humour in the card, like the cat ass trophy, very good, and yeah, just a really fun take that card game, and I think we both enjoyed it, Nat.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. You know, it didn't outstay its welcome. There was a certain amount of pun humour on the cards, which I appreciated. And I think through the game, you were like, oh my God, look at this game. Look at this card. As I say, it doesn't outstay its welcome, because I was like, do we have to go through the entire deck? But actually, given some of the cards that you pull out, you can end the game pretty much whenever you want. Like, if you start getting bored, you just lay down this one card and the game's done.
There's more games than I thought there'd be there, because you do actually start thinking halfway through, right, if I do this, and then if Nat does this, and then I can do this, and it's, I started off really worried about there just being take that for the sake of take that, but it actually starts to come together, and it's actually, there's a little bit of cleverness in there within itself. Do you know much about Kitty Cataclysm, Ronan?
No, I haven't played it. I've seen it all the way through with Bez from the development, and then last year at AireCon where she was getting everyone, Anna Essen, to draw different cats, and I drew a shockingly bad one for her, and the playtest and that. So I've kind of been adjacent to it because I know Bez, but I haven't actually played the full version of it. So no more than you have just said, Sean. But there's one thing you can guarantee is that she's a bundle of ideas, and every time I play one of the games, some stuff by Bez, I know it's not just going to be same old, same old. That doesn't mean it's going to be 100% hitting every time, but it's definitely not going to be boring. It's going to be different, and you're going to go, oh yeah. And everyone, I think, also you've played, and it's become slightly more than you first thought when you first start playing.
Yeah, and just to cap before we can move on, Bez informed us that she is redesigning some of the cards after doing all the playtesting at all the events. She just feels that she can balance the game a little bit better. She's going to do a slight graphical redesign on the box, and it's coming to Kickstarter soon. Well, obviously the coronavirus has probably put some sort of kibosh on that, but in the coming months ahead, this will be coming to Kickstarter, so keep an eye out for it.
Most importantly now, at that stand, did you get a demonstration of the balloon machine?
No,
we did not.
We got hugs all the time, though, which was great.
We got many, many hugs.
It's a friendly place to be. Now, did you see the huge big balloons that had all sorts of different stuff in them, like little heart balloons and games and stuff like that?
Yeah.
Right. How do you get that stuff into a balloon?
Brute force.
Difficulty?
Oh, well, now, if you'd only asked Bez, you'd have found out. Because at Nuremberg, she spent 400 and something euro to buy a machine to do it. And this is like something from Frankenstein's laboratory, right? It's got a balloon stretcher, which is a bunch of spikes that start in the middle, and you put these special balloons over it, and then you pull it apart, and these spikes will spread out and stretch the balloon. And then you put them on this massive double glass bowl, and then you create a vacuum so it gets sucked inside. And mate, it was much more complicated and much more fascinating than I could ever have imagined. They're in a vacuum. They're not in. That's how the vacuum sucks it, and then they're in air, but the whole thing is created by creating a vacuum that sucks the balloon out to size, and you can put anything you like in it. Trust me.
Seriously, this podcast should be by video because the look on my face must be epic. So what now? I missed out.
You need to ask next time. I got full demonstration.
I tell you, I'm collaring her next time.
Anyway, I've talked about Rumble Nation before, and it was the next one up. And the only reason I really wanted to bring it up is to every single person I have taught this 25 to 30 minute Area Majority Game 2 has gone, oh my God, that is so much better than I thought it was going to be. And this game just needs to be played by more people and needs to be picked up by a big company and needs to be released. It's fantastic and has been a 100% hit rate, and it was again. I taught Matthew, and I mean, he loves every game we ever teach him anyway, but I think he super loved this one. And it's just a great game of it once more. It never fails to deliver. Fantastic, quick area majority game. Rumble Nation, for the love of all the gods, someone pick it up.
I concur. Really, really good game. I really wish I'd have picked it up.
I really wish someone had taught me. I feel like Billy No Mates now.
Yeah, you wouldn't like it.
It was there. It was definitely there. We will get it played. Trust me. I bring it everywhere. It teaches in 5 minutes, and you're rolling and playing. And yeah, I taught more than Matthew. I taught another game of it, and yeah, still.
He does bring it. He does bring it everywhere. Right in the middle of my mum's funeral, there he was, Rumble Nation.
I was, yeah. In fairness, it was one of her favourite Japanese-themed area majority games there at the end.
I thought it was touch and go, but you managed to get the baby to play it nicely. I thought that was good of you.
I got him to sleep, didn't I?
Is that how you did it?
Something like that. Just started reading rule books to him. He never falls asleep on anyone. Agricola in German. Here we go. Natalie, it sounds like you're getting violent again.
Again, I never stop being violent. I'm like the Hulk. Oh, listen, I'm getting a little bit punchy and a little bit hysterical. Okay, next up, we have a Throw Burrito, and that was designed by Matthew Inman, Elan Lee, Brian S. Spence, and it's self-published, and it's also published by Asmodee Italia. For those of you that walk into bookshops like Waterstones, you can pick it up from Waterstones. So it's kind of made a jump.
I do love a Waterstones, by the way.
You do love. I love a Waterstones.
Can never walk out without a full bag, as they say.
Seriously, Sean has literally banned me from Waterstones. It's obscene.
I'm the one that always goes in there because I always like to see what.
I know, but you go in with me and you know what happens, and then you blame me.
About that feeling violent, Sean, shh, you're in danger.
Anyway, Throw Burrito, yes. So it's essentially a card game with a couple of foamy burritos in the middle, and you are going to do some set collection by which you're going to score points. But part of this set collection is by collecting 3 cards that will allow you to throw these burritos in different fashions at each other. We've played it with our son James a couple of times, and it's a lot of fun. You just end up laughing your bottom off, basically, as you're trying to collect these cards so that you can get the most... Oh, man, no, I'm stereotyping myself. You can get the most violent option, where you can just pick it up and throw it at someone's head. It is a lot of fun. I'm looking forward to playing this again, Shawnee. We've got to get it out soon.
If it wasn't for James, I would have been, that's just a pathetic attempt at a game, but it's a 7-year-old's dream. He gets to hop a burrito off his dad's head. Like, what can you want in life?
And it's his mother's dream as well. I get to hop a burrito off your head.
Yeah, but you were hiding razor blades in it. That wasn't nice.
Listen, we're here for a good time, not a long time.
Who's having the good time? This took a dark turn. Right, I've got no interest in Throw Burrito. I've got no interest in this domestic abuse either. Can we move on?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, let's do it, yes. Ghosts of the Moor from Michael Kiesling and Wolfgang Kramer and Tasty Minstrel Games. I picked it up because it was cheap and it was on sale. And that is why I picked up Ghosts of the Moor.
Can I just double check something with you before you go any further?
Mm-hmm.
How many games did you sell in the Bring and Buy?
We bought about 44, we sold about 30, and you bought some.
Okay, but forget that. See what you just said about Ghosts of the Moor? That's why you had to bring 44 games to try and sell them to clear out your house.
It's a tiny little one, Rolly. It doesn't count.
It doesn't
They
count,
all
man.
count.
There's a
200
tiny little one.
ones.
Oh, you can barely see it. It's
Rolly is not the ones he picks up from the Bring and Buy, matey. It's the ones that he gets delivered to the house in massive boxes every day.
We're not talking about ordering Kickstarters, okay? This is not a subject we can broach tonight. It's far too serious. Go, all right, this is not a counselling session for you two. Call relate. Ghosts of the Moor, go.
Ghosts of the Moor. So you've got a team of characters that you've got to get from one end of the moor to the other. You're going to roll a die. when you land on a artifact, you get to take that artifact and keep it. When you land on a ghost, you have to take the ghost. The whole thing is about moving ahead of all the artifacts and everything to get rid of said ghosts, because ghosts are minus points, and it's a real tactical game of what character do you move, where they're going to move to, do you jump ahead and grab the artifact because it can be taken off you by the other players. And first game of this, we played it with James, bought it for James, and he really didn't get it at all. He didn't understand about taking the ghosts early so that you can get rid of them and set traps for other people to land on the ghosts. Because when you get rid of a ghost, you're able to place it at the end of the track. And so when people are getting towards the end, they've got this sort of gauntlet to run. So he didn't get that at all, and he didn't really want to play it again. He just said, actually, I didn't enjoy that, Daddy. So I said, should I put it on the trade? I can sell it. I'll sell it for you if you want. And he said, no, I'll give it one more go. But the second time, it clicked for him, and he was setting trap after trap, and he really enjoyed it. And I think we enjoyed it as a family because of that.
Yeah, I was certainly unsure about the first game, and we were going to stick it on the trade pile, but then Jamesy came down and said that he wanted to try it again, and we tried it again, and because he'd got a hold of it in his brain and knew what he then had to do, it made the experience better for us. And again, it's always nice to see the leaps in thinking with him, because I thought that was quite a tactical game. I thought that was surprised that he wanted to try it again, because I thought it was a little bit older for him. So to see him tackle that problem and come out the better was enormously gratifying, and actually fed into my enjoyment of the game, and I'm looking forward to playing it again with him.
Okay, well, this has got a fierce bad rating on BGG. It's rated 9,000 something. What you guys got enjoyment out of it? Why is it so poorly rated, do you think?
I think we got enjoyment out of it through the eyes of James. I think if we were playing this game just the two of us, or with you, Ronan, I think there just isn't enough there. The traps are very obvious. The cassette collection is very obvious.
I'd just like to say, as displayed in last night's game of Tang Garden, I do nothing but make games more fun, light and breezy.
Yes, the game that we thought was light and breezy, Nat, Ronan turned into a 4-hour epic.
How did you turn that into a 4-hour epic?
Well, firstly, by getting some of the rules right.
I was horrific last night. I was horrific. I think I actually invented a new game.
Well done.
The game that I explained was not Tang Garden. But anyway, we're going to get back to Tang Garden because we'll review it in an episode coming soon.
Sorry, you were saying why it was underrated.
Well, it was underrated. No, I think the rating is probably a just rating for serious gamers and even adults, to be honest. I think it wouldn't hold much interest, but I think the learning curve through James was what sort of sold it for us, and we enjoyed it through that, if I'm right in saying that, Nat.
Yeah, I think that was a goodly proportion. But maybe just to touch on something that Ronan mentioned earlier when we were talking, was about those ratings being influenced by kind of the first or second play. And I actually think this particular game needs a couple plays before you really understand the mechanism of, well, why am I picking up the ghost? Why do I even want to pick up the ghost? How does it work? Because I thought that the first game was really just us getting our heads around the rules. And then the second game is where we actually played the game. I think some of those low ratings comes from that. People have given it 1 or 2 games and have just not got the rules.
A little bit, but I think the third game was very similar to the second game, and I think if we played it a fourth and a fifth and a sixth time, I don't think we'd get anything new from it, and I think we'd find the experience quite boring. Just the two of us, but with James, maybe not.
Maybe so.
Okay, so the last 2 games we're going to cover are games that we've both spoken about. So I've spoken a lot about the first game, and those guys have spoken a lot about the second game, but we got to play each other's game. So while I'm going to introduce Castel Mathoni, I'm really looking for the thoughts of Sean and Nat, because you guys all know that it's a game that I enjoy. It's done by Leo Colavini from Mandu Games. It's the idea that you're all Venetian merchants, you've taken control of an island, and now you're looking to control that island. It's about laying out walls, taking control of different areas, trying to earn money in order to buy areas either from the bank or from each other and kicking each other out of areas and getting majorities. And in the end, controlling areas on this island and having earned lots of money is going to win you the points. Now, you know that I think it's an underrated game from Essen last year. I have now played it numerous times, still enjoying it. Still lots of different experiences when you play, depending upon how the players play. New players tend to play differently to more experienced players. That doesn't mean worse or better, to be honest with you, because there's so many variations. You kind of always have to roll with what's going on and turn it as best you can to your advantage. But I'm going to hand over to Natalie. What were your thoughts playing Castello Mathoni?
So when we first started, and I've disclaimer, I've only played this once. So when we first started playing it, I didn't kind of get it. I didn't grok the rules appropriately, but watching everyone else play made it easier for me. And as we went along, I got more comfortable with the mechanisms and more comfortable with what we were supposed to do. And coming out the other side of the game, I really, really enjoyed it. And I absolutely want to play it again. I can see how this game has immense replayability. Because, as you say, it really will be influenced by the people that you're playing with, the strategies they take, the cards that you pick up. Like that's going to be a big thing. You've got these cards. I will say I didn't get all of the rules completely, so my scoring was a little bit tanked towards the end because I didn't really understand the bonus cards. So hopefully next time I'll get a few more points. But I really enjoyed it, and of course the visual look of the game. You know, the walls going on the board, and at the beginning when Ronan was explaining the game, he said those walls are going to go quicker than you think. And I hate to say this because it makes me break out in hives, but Ronan was right. Those walls fly.
Twice this episode, people. Someone keep count for me.
It's the pandemic delirium.
Ronan, I've kept count this twice.
Hey, you're the man. You got my back. Okay. So, Nat, I would say it's completely understandable because I don't think anyone gets this game on their first play. And most times I've taught it, that because it's quick, right?
Yeah,
it's under 45 minutes. Most tables have turned around and gone, right, can we play properly again now? Because it's just... Either I'm teaching it like an idiot, probably, or you just need to see it in action. It's one of those because it's a bit odd, and it's just your brain can't really work everything out until you do it, and you go, "Oh, this is super simple," but it just sounds more complicated than it really is. So it's definitely not on you. That's everyone.
I'm going to throw you a bone and say I actually think it's the mechanisms of the game, because it is this area control game, but there are certain aspects to it where normally in area control games, you are kind of having a battle or a combat of some description. But in this, it's I think you pointed out again in the beginning of the rules, it's more of a trading mechanism that allows you to take over other people's areas. And you could be in a really strong position and have no money. And then all of a sudden your stock has plummeted and you're nowhere. And you're kind of waiting for someone to take over your area so that you can get some money and to go and take another area. And I think that's incredibly clever, but not something that I immediately got from the beginning. So, it's not the way you taught it. It's just a different way of approaching an area control game.
Yeah, so for me, I approached this well into my hangover on the Saturday morning, and felt like it was just going to be a really mean, backstabby game. And it just isn't, because when somebody does take over your area, they are giving you something, and that takes away the meanness and the feeling that they're being mean to you, because you've got to pay for everything. And when we first finished the game, I felt like I was looking at sort of Nat and Ellie and Rachel, and I was thinking, but I came ahead of them. I came second in the game, but I felt originally that they played the game better than me. But what I'd done is played an aspect of the game, which is very important that you don't see in other games, is setting yourself up to be taken over. And I think that's hard to grok in your head. When you first go, you want to build up your little areas, score your points for your areas, like any area control. But no, this one, you almost want people. You want to tempt them into taking over, because they're going to pay you. They're going to give you money. And the money is going to fund your moves around the board in other areas. So I think that's the beauty of the game. And I didn't expect to like it. And hangover and all, I really did enjoy this one. So a surprise hit for me, and a really strong game.
Look at Economy Boy over here. set himself up to get the money, eh?
It's one of the aspects that I kind of emphasise it a bit more in the rules, because it is really an abstract game. But when you say, listen, we're merchants and it's about trading and dealing and getting land, that can kind of help you realise how that flows. Yeah. But I'm not sure that people ever listen to me. But hopefully it's in the back of their heads, and as the game develops, they go, oh, I see what you're talking about. That's the cleverest aspect of the design to me, that it does genuinely run on an economic engine. And I'm kind of repeating what you guys said. Anyway, Natalie, you're going to see us out with our final game for this
I
one.
am. The final game we have is Raiders of the North Sea, and it's by the same designers of Paladins of the West Kingdom, so that's Shem Phillips and S.J. McDonald. Published by the same guys too, Garfield Games and Renegade Games. I think this was one of their first games, guys who were more into that. Is that correct?
It was the second one of the North Sea trilogy, so probably, his second design in this type of game.
Yeah, it is worker placement. You are Vikings. You are setting yourself up in your homestead by getting crew, provisions, and then you are going off and raiding the distant shores of another place entirely. As you raid and you go up through the harbours and the rivers to the outposts and the monasteries and the fortresses, you're going to be collecting goods. You are going to be getting some of your crew killed off, and then those goods will give you points at the end, and you will use them for further raiding or for getting points as you offer them up to the gods. Well, the interesting mechanic for this particular game is you have one meeple, and you put that meeple down on an action space, you perform that action, and then you take a meeple from another action space and you perform that action. So you'll start your turn with a meeple and you end your turn with a meeple. Now, I have played this game many, many times. I had an opportunity to play it again at AireCon. I love it. Ronan, I believe it was was it your first time playing?
It was my first time playing, yeah.
And what were your thoughts? I'd like to hear your thoughts, because it's been so long since I first played this game, and I've played it many, many times, and I love it wholeheartedly. What did you think?
I feel like I might have to climb into a bunker while I continue talking here.
Oh, God.
I didn't love it. I love the experience of playing with you guys, though. But
why do you suck the joy out of everything?
Might be a valid comment. I do feel bad because I really did genuinely want to like it, and I was really excited to play it. And when you guys, and I had it here borrowed from Sean, and I was like, yeah, great, we're going to finally play it. And then there's two things. Now listen, I enjoyed the game. I'd play it again. I didn't love it, and I have concerns about it. And the two concerns, and I feel like I'm kicking a puppy here. I know you guys love it, and I hate to be miserable. But just the two things I say is, one, where the actions got really repetitive. There's only those, 6, 7 actions, and some you use very rarely, and you're doing 2 of them every turn. So you're just doing the same things, churning round and round and round. You collect stuff, you go and raid, gets rid of it, churn it round and round and round. The game felt a bit samey, even from the beginning to the end. I know you get slightly more stuff, but you're kind of doing the same thing. And the second thing I felt was, it's a race, and you really got to keep up with the race, to keep going forward. Now, and this might be affected the way that I chose to play it, but I felt like once someone had got an edge on you, that's it, they've got the edge. And they're going to keep on going, and even if you then catch up and start going at the same rate, you'll never get ahead of them. You'll never get going quicker than them. And I mean, I came last, and I hope it's not just being miserable that because I didn't think that bothered me because I was exploring the game. But I felt like, well, now I can't do what you guys are doing because you're doing it better than me. So now I have to switch to something else to have any chance of doing anything. So I couldn't follow you because I couldn't do it as well as you. And then when I switched, it didn't help me catch up in any way. So I was like, right, I haven't quite followed the bleeding edge here, and they're never going to get back into the game.
No, it's all good nonsense. There's plenty of ways to get back again. You played Raiders of the North Sea and you never raided. You went on the strategy of pure Valkyries, killing off your dudes, trying to get up the Valkyrie track. And you can't do that. You've got to raid. You've got to raid. And
hold on. Wait a sec. How did I kill them?
By raiding
raiding.
You didn't try and raid the further echelons. You were just still picking off the little islands at the beginning.
Because you guys got there first.
No. There's an ebb and flow. When I raid, I use up all my resources, and they leave you open for the next raid. There's always a chance to get in there. And if you save up, you can do 2 raids back to back. I think it was in the way you chose to play the game that you ruled yourself out of being able to win that game.
I agree. I do. I think, and I saw it because I played this game with Terry and Shireen when we went to Sandy Balls in the middle of March. Shireen hadn't played it before, and she did a similar strategy to you, Ronan. She didn't really go much for the raiding, and she lost. It is Raiders of the North Sea. You do have to raid, and you do have to start raiding early, and then everything else is kind of building up to that. Yes, it can get samey, but it only gets samey if you're not raiding. If you're not raiding, of course the actions become boring because you're not really doing anything. And you can kill off your people quite easily because it all depends on where the Valkyries fall. Now, in this particular game, there was a hell of a lot of Valkyries that fell quite early on. Like, I believe the harbour had quite a few of them. So there was no need for you to carry further on up to get to the Valkyries. And I don't know. I think you should give it another go. Should we say that? Should we end on a positive, friendly note where I don't want to scoop your eyeballs out with my melon baller and say you probably might want to play it again?
I know, I happily play again.
Or you're wrong.
I do also think now I am getting to the point now. I mean, I've played this lots. It's one of the games I've played the most. And I think I am getting to the point where I think I'm ready to introduce those expansions, which really ramp up your choices and really give you a lot more to think about. And a lot of people won't play it without the expansion. So I do see your argument with the sameness, definitely. I think it becomes quite tactical in what you leave behind and stuff like that. But yeah, the actions in themselves are quite samey. There's not a vast variety of crew members. There's a lot of duplicates of the crew members, so you tend to, like me and Ronan had the same thing. I think Natalie and Rachel had a couple of the same crew, so maybe, yeah, definitely there's elements that you could improve on, and I think the expansions probably do that. But for the first 10 or so games, we absolutely adored it, and I'm a bit sad that you didn't like it as much as we do, but I hope we can change your mind.
I think one of the aspects where it was never going to be an absolute hit for me was that there is no ability to play differently. Everyone's got to follow the same strategy. You've got to raid up quick. That's it.
Okay,
so,
I see that. I can see that.
And you know, I like to be a bit weird. And sometimes when I play games too.
No, I think the Valkyrie thing is a valid strategy, but it's a side strategy. It's not. You have to at least go on a few of the big raids, but keep the Valkyries ticking over. And I suppose the layout of the board, as Nat said, would dictate that. So if the Valkyries are all early on the islands in the nearer to easier to get to raiding spots, I suppose that dictates where you go to in those. So maybe the game dictated that a little bit.
I'm still in my bunker. I've said too much. It's not a safe place for me to be.
Listen, the only hope for you is that I've calmed down by the time all of this malarkey is over. So in 18 months, we should be grand. It'll be fine.
I'm going out licking something to spread it, just to keep you locked down. Use my evil powers on London Underground. No, I'm definitely not. This is no laughing matter. Okay. And overall, it probably goes without saying, a fantastically run con. Everyone's friendly and happy and helpful, and everyone seems to be very relaxed, and it is definitely one of the most enjoyable game experiences of the year. And we were very lucky that we was able to run this year, as we have seen with all the massive things going on in Disruption.
Yeah, big thanks to Mark and the team. Just really welcoming, really make you at home straight away. Nothing's too much trouble for the team, and always a great time.
Absolutely, just to echo the boys there, it's fantastically run. You know, everything has been thought about. I thought the bring and buy was good as well this year, with it being separate. I was,
apart from my Batman not selling.
Well, it's because everybody's got a copy of it.
Or shall I call it bargain lat man?
Jeez, you really had to reach for that. Yeah, and it was just fantastic, and I got to have a little chat with Kim Joy there, so that made my weekend.
and Paula.
And Paula, yeah, I met Paula as well.
All the Death by Monsters crew. That was.
Yeah, but
I do
it's
like
Paula
their
that it is Paula that I've got a bit of a crush on. And I know Matthew just comes round. It's not fun to meet him. It's like, whatever.
We don't like him at all.
I did tell him that the Home Strangers weren't as good as the normal episodes, and I felt like I killed him a little bit. He was like, "Oh, it's just I wish I'd never said a word." It's true though. The major episodes are really, really good.
The major episodes are fantastic.
I love
the amount of research that goes into those Death by Monster episodes. But I had to stop listening because they did the Black Eyed Kids one, and then after I listened to the Black Eyed Kids one, the little one was in the room with us still, and he just popped up in the middle of the night, and he's staring at me in the middle of the night after I've listened to that episode. Oh, it'll put the EBGBs up, yeah.
Mostly because he's a psychopath as well. So
well, I mean, he's a little bit feral.
There is that.
Mostly because he was chewing his way out the window. Anyway, Natalie, thank you so much for coming along and sharing your thoughts, hopes, dreams, visions, passions.
I mean, I'd really like to go into the outside world again and meet actual human people that aren't my feral children.
That would be nice. Sean, well done for making it on an episode once this year.
Yeah. It's been strange, but I'll see you next year.
Hopefully not. We've got to pick it over the bones planned for maybe next week, maybe the week after. We'll see how life goes.
We'll see how it all goes.
Grand.
Thank you very much for having me, boys, and I'm really pleased that you used a lot of Febreze around the place because honestly, last time the stench was horrific.
It is that yearly time.
Hey.
Anyway, Sean, see us out.
As always, we are very proud members of the Dice Tower Network. Go to that and the Dice Tower itself for gaming goodness galore. If you wish to download our episodes, we're on Stitcher, iTunes, Spotify, and Podbean. And if you wish to contact us, you can go to thegamepitpodcast@gmail.com or pop along to our Board Game Geek Guild. We are on social media on Facebook. We have an Instagram page. And we are, of course, on Twitter @GamePitPodcast. If you wish to find some videos with overviews on games, pop along to our YouTube channel. But the overviews have now moved to the Dice Tower Network. So thank you very much for listening. Thanks, Natalie, and thanks, Ronan. And we'll catch you next time. Music by E. Aaron.
Go.